the bank before. I feed it one small sin, chrome flash, blood red eyes. Let that monster taste it, then I rip it to the sky. In the silence they're watching, every movement matters. One heartbeat, one mistake, and they drag me to the black hole. Trigger the strike, hey, trigger the strike. DBL custom lures, built for the fight. Cast it deep, let it fall, built to hunt through it all. In the dark where they hide. DBL strike mode, live precision, engineered to bite. DBL built for the strike. When rope, white knuckles, that rod starts to bow. If you ain't ready for the violence, you better let go now. Cause when the beast comes up, eyes burning through the night. Only one thing drags it home, only one thing's built to fight. Trigger the strike, hey, trigger the strike. DBL custom lures, built for the fight. Cast it deep, let it fall, built to hunt through it all. In the dark where they hide. DBL strike mode, live precision, engineered to bite. DBL built for the strike.
Well, hello there. Glad to see you guys join me today. Today we're going to build air vise. And let me know real quick in the chat if you can see me okay and if the audio is good. Don't see anybody in here. Hey, there you are. How are you doing today, Billy? Can you hear me okay and see me okay? Oh, cool. Great. Thank you, Billy. So today we're going to build a fluid bed, much like the one that I sent you. This one's going out to Mike, Bar Down Baits. Been calling him Rails because he's always off the rails. It's kind of fun watching his videos and stuff. He's a pretty sharp guy, pretty artistic. So we got the squirrel here. Got to get a name for her. The poll is up on my community page if you guys want to go vote on her job, on her name. I've been calling her Nut Job. So I got two of these. One's down in the shop tearing up the metric bolts. So put her over there. Let me switch some cameras around here. How's that? Now you can see the bench. So, all right. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I like to use as few parts as I can on these. Mainly because when you see those guys with all those parts stacked real high, they get kind of tall and clumsy. And if they're not bolted down to something, they can fall over. But every time you add a fitting to your fluid bed, you're doing two things. You're introducing an area where you can get leaks. And we have to avoid leaks at all costs. I mean, that's just really, really important to do. The other thing about it is you build a mass area where you have to add volumes of air and pressure to that. And these little pumps that we use for these little fish tank aquarium pumps, they're not measured in cubic feet a minute because they don't produce even 1 cubic feet a minute. They're measured in watts, which is a measurement of energy and energy use. So when you get one, you want to try to find one that's the highest wattage you can and that has dual ports and an adjustable air volume knob on it. Generally, you're going to crank that all the way up and produce as much air as you can. That being said, I go with a minimum number of parts. That way, we don't have to build a huge volume of air before a fluid bed starts working. And we don't lose a huge volume of air going through a bunch of parts. So I use these. These are actually, I'll put it over here so that you can see it. What these are is if you want to build a PVC shelf or a PVC table, you can go to the hardware store and buy these little fittings, or they're on Amazon. After we do the live in the description, I'll put all of these parts and where you can get them. That way, Billy, if you want to expand yours to be 3 or 4 or whatever fluid beds you can. The first thing we have to do, oh wait, the other thing I use is these cups. Now I get these cups from Lure Magic. And the only reason I buy them is because by the time I buy a 10-foot stick of PVC pipe and I buy these little air filters, these are what they call a polychromite foam. So it's very, very fine micron. And they're used in really high-end filtering systems like hydraulics and some really computerized pneumatics, things like that, where you have to stay dry and you have to really push a lot of air and spread it out over a large area. Yeah, these are great, great filters. I built a fluid bed for a company that made dog kennels. And they were powder coating. They'd weld the frame together and weld the wire into the frame, throw that whole thing in this huge oven and heat it up, and then take it to his fluid bed. Problem was their fluid bed was stagnant, so the powders and everything would settle down and hard pack, and then they couldn't easily float these frames in to get the powder coating on them. So I started researching these filters, and I found these in 10 by 16 foot sheets, and that's what we ended up putting for the bottom of their fluid bed. And then we were running a screw air compressor to pump enough air into that volume. And because this thing is 10 foot by like 15 foot, and it was a huge fluid bed. And they were putting in a cement truck full of powder to powder coat these things. It was crazy. But these I found work better than anything I'd ever run across. So I started making them in these cups, and then I contacted Lure Magic and said, hey, try these filters, and they've been making them ever since. So if you want to buy these cups on Lure Magic, they're like $7 a piece. They're not very expensive. They're already machined to fit the filter. The filter's glued in, and it comes with a nice snug fitting cap. Everything's ready to go. And you can store your paint in here, your powder. But if you live in a humid area, these filters will allow humidity to seep through, and eventually your powder coating powder in there will get hard, and you'll have to break it up. So I don't suggest, store it in the original bottle. That way you got the name, and when you start to get low, you know what to order and who to order it from and everything. So I find these cups the easiest to use. So you have $7 per cup. These things are about $3 a piece, so we're up to $10 a piece. You're maybe $12 by the time you buy a couple screws and a little bit of hose. They don't cost a whole lot to build. People tend to put more into them than what's really necessary. By the time you get all those fittings that you see these other guys use, they're $30 per cup. So, yeah, I would just stick with these and use these little shelf locks or whatever they call them. I don't even know what they're called. I just go to Home Depot and pick them up off their shelf. So, if you want to expand your fluid bed, this would be the cheapest way. You're going to use the least amount of air to push your fluids, which is really important. We'll actually do a couple jigs and spinners here in a little bit. But to start off, what I do is I have my board, and I made a bunch of these boards up, and they're all pre-drilled. I'm going to start making these out of aluminum plate. That way you can put your logo sticker on the aluminum, and it'll stick there, and then everybody knows who you are. So, and if you guys need stickers, get a hold of Preacher's Creatures. He makes some fantastic stickers. They are really out of this world. So, but I just take and I screw these little shelf bracket things down. The important thing is, don't try to get these screws too tight, because you'll end up breaking those little ears. Ask me how I know. So, yeah, Billy, I can't wait to see some of the stuff you've been doing with yours. I'm kind of excited. We're going to do something today that's going to be really fun. So, now that I have these screwed down, did I put them in the right spots? No, I didn't put this one in the right spot. I didn't even look. I haven't pre-drilled for the hose. So I'm off rotation here. Now that looks better. Oops. It's not the first time I've done that. Fingers aren't working today. Got arthritis really bad from breaking them so many times when I was mechanicking. Threw that screw on the floor. Okay, next thing we got to do is get our air supply line into these cups. So at Menards, Home Depot, any of them, they have these. Let's see if I can get it. Yep, there you go. And what that is when you plumb the tubing in for your swamp cooler or for your refrigerator ice maker, you use plastic line, and when you use plastic line on a compression fitting, you have to add a little brass collar on the inside of that plastic line so that it'll when you crimp it down, it'll hold it. So, and this is a real heavy duty line, but what I do is I feed it all the way through to where I can reach it. And then I push one of these little brass collars down in there. They're kind of tricky to get in there, aren't they? It didn't help any. There, we got it. And what that's going to do, this is a real heavy walled plastic tubing. And I do that so that it'll never create a leak. Get this one fed in there. And you don't even have to go all the way in. You just got to go part way in, just enough to swell that tubing a little bit. This is 1/4-inch tubing, so I've drilled a 1/4-inch hole in my little fitting here. And when I swell that up, then what I do is I just take regular clear silicone, and right where the end of that tubing is, I put just a little bit of this square tubing around, or clear silicone around it. And then I pull that tubing back in that hole, and that silicone will glue that in and hold it there. And that little piece of that tubing will keep your tubing swelled up so it's nice and tight. And then after the silicone dries, you can pull that brass tubing out. It doesn't have to stay in there, but it sure makes a good seal while you're working on it. Right there. So now we need to install these little valves. These are what they call a multi-turn valve. And what they do is they're a very fine needle point. And so you get a really minute adjustment out of them. So we'll screw this angle down. That's what our switch is going to mount to, or valve rather. I'm thinking air vise. They have switches. And I got to find my other screw. You know, the one the squirrel kicked off the bench. That was a squirrel that did that. Okay. Then we mount up our little valves with just a little screw and a nut. These are a number 8 screw that fit these valves, or number 6, sorry. Number 6 screw and just a nut. You know, the kind that the squirrel down in the shop's been eating. All them metric nuts. Stupid squirrel. That's why I call it stupid squirrel. But this one I've been calling nut job. Man, those fingers are not cooperating today at all. Our weather's changing. We had snow for the last couple days, and now today it's supposed to get up to 50 and make a big mud mess out here where I live. But that's okay because we didn't get any snow all winter, so it's really dry. Now, when you put these valves on, you do not need to tighten them very tight. Okay, they're pretty easy to break that body. So then what I do is I curve this around to where it looks good. I put my finger on there, and I use these flush cutting pliers or wire cutters that we use for our spinners and jigs and stuff. And I cuts that hose real good. Now this is push lock, so all you have to do is push it in there and it will lock in place. And they are a pretty leak-free fitting. I really like them. And if you ever need to take them off, change a valve or whatever, all you do is pull the collar back and then pull the hose out. So those two are set in there. And we'll move all this out of our way. And there is a complete, I got dirt on there somehow. There's a complete fluid bed. Now, one word of caution, with these valves closed, or if you accidentally leave them open, when you put these cups on, if you have powder in there, they are going to poof out on you. I had to use the tubing that came with the air pump to go into the adjustment valve. I couldn't get the orange tubing to go into the air pump. Okay. That's a very good point. I'm going to show you what this is. Hopefully you guys will be able to see it. And here's why I use it. This is a very heavy walled tubing. So you can see how thick that is. So it's 1/4 inch OD, and it's a, I think it's 3/16 ID. Maybe it'll say on the tag. 7/64 ID. So it's a very heavy walled. So it's very, very stiff. But your fish tank pump tubing will work just fine. The trick to getting, if you use this orange, the trick to getting it onto the air pump is to put it in boiling water for a couple seconds, and then it'll get really soft. Then you can push it in. So, but what you did, Billy, using the hose that came with the air pump, they're so low pressure. You don't need this heavy wall tubing. The reason I use it is because it'll hold that shape after sitting there for about 4 or 5 hours. And then these valves are less likely to leak, and it's less likely to come out of your base. So if you bump it or something, it just, to me, in my mind, it makes a stronger connection. So, but when you put them on, I don't know if you've experienced this. If there's powder in that cup and you have this off, it's going to poof out of there when you push that down a little bit and go everywhere. It's going to make a mess. So if you have powder in it, leave the cap on when you put it on. And when you put it on, you just need to give it a slight jiggle. Okay? They don't need to go very far down there. If you push down on them really hard, they're going to get hard to get out. And then you'll have to twist it to get it out. But you know, just a tiny amount in there is fine. Now, these are the standard paint cups. And I think I sent you one of these. Tried using worm oil, but couldn't get it. I didn't think about the boiling water trick. Yeah. Yeah, anytime, like if you're helping somebody with their swimming pool that they set up in the summer, and it comes with those white kind of ribbed flexible hoses, and they're really hard to push onto the filter fittings. if it's this soft ABS plastic like this, or it's polyvinyl dechlorinate, I think is the actual name of it. It's oil proof, fuel proof. It withstands heat. I mean, but all of those, if you put them in boiling water, they get soft, and then you can push them on your pump, and when they cool, they'll shrink back down and they won't come off. So, but I wouldn't worry about it too much, Billy. You're fine. So, did I send you one of these cups like this for doing the jigs, Billy? Well, what this is, I've seen a lot of guys trying to do jigs, and ultimately what you see them do is they take this great big 4-inch to 2-inch sewer adapter, and then they put this down inside of it, and they dip in there, and it's poofing out everywhere because they got to fill it right to the top, and it's just messy. And so I got to thinking, what you need is something that you can pass down into the powder and pull out without leaking powder. So I came up with this, and basically what you're going to do is take your spinner, like this is set up for a spinner. If I can get it out of here. This one's all wired in for a spinner, and this one is wired in for either an inline spinner or a buzz bait. But either way, there's a fat slot on it and a narrow slot. The narrow slot is for the wire. The fat slot is for the hook. And you can go all the way down to the bottom of those slots, and your powder will go around that and coat it and come out, tap it off, and you're done. You've just painted a jig. And then if you want to make it with another color, you can either use a paintbrush or you can just dip the head in. But we'll go ahead and try that. I'll get this out of the way. This one's going out to Mike at Bar Down Baits. So he's going to try using it and see if he can make some beautiful jigs like he did the other night. So we'll pull mine over here. We'll get it started up. I use mine way too much. So, close the valves down so we don't have any air leaking. I never store my powders in these cups. I always change them out. So, we'll slide that down in there. The powder we're going to use today is my favorite. This is Protect's Copperhead. So, you have to mix this up. It's got some, it's like 4 different pigments in it and some real fine flake. And it's just beautiful, but just give it a couple shakes and a couple spins so that you get all those pigments mixed evenly. And then when you pour it in there, I usually go between 1/4 and 1/2 of the cup. And I find that is plenty. See, I got a little valve leak in there. Let me grab a piece of paper here. I always use mine setting on a piece of paper, because then when I make a mess, because I always make a mess, I can just take the paper, fold it in half, and put my pigments down in it. Now, I don't know if you guys can see in there. There you can. This is what they call volcanoing. So this valve must be leaking a little bit. I'm going to have to replace that. But that's volcanoing. So it makes those little mounds, and then the center pops up. Copperhead is beautiful. So when you see that, most people say, oh, go to where volcanoes and then turn the air down to where the volcanoes stop, and you can see that wants to float in there. But that's not enough to keep all the pigments and glitter stirred up. So when you see volcano, open that puppy up. And right there, you see that rolling boil. Now that rolling boil is what we want because that's picking all the glitter, all the flake, all the pigments, the clears that are mixed in this, everything is stirring. And that's where we want it to be at. So we'll get my heat gun here. And I am the world's laziest jig painter. So we'll start with a couple of ball jigs. What I do is I turn this on and I set it to 400 degrees. We're going to bake it at 350. 400 is going to get these really hot really fast. But it's not hot enough to melt the lead. So I just throw one on there, let it set for a couple seconds. If I got little ones, I'll just line a whole bunch on there. But after a few seconds, that entire thing is heated up quite a bit. So I throw the next one on, I take this over and I do my dip. And then I go back and clean it up. So that one must have been a little chilly because it didn't dip very well. There we go. Now we got some copperhead on there. Now, a trick that Adam at SDG does, and it works really, really well, especially if you're making bladed jigs or something out of these, you can't get anything in those eyelets. So what he'll do is take heat shrink tubing. See where I got a roll right here. This is the stuff, heat shrink tubing. This is a 2-to-1 shrink rate. So it's going to shrink down to half the size that it is. So it's 3/32 now. So you cut that in half. That's 1.5 30 seconds. So is a complete shrink size. You can get two different sizes. 3/32 and 1/8 will cover everything you need. A spool this size is like $7, $8, and it will last you your lifetime, your kid's lifetime, and your grandkid's lifetime. Because you're just going to cut little bitty pieces like that off, stick them on that warmed up jig, and I usually go back to the heat for just a second. And what that'll do is keep everything out of the eyelet. Then you dip, tap it off, go back to the heat for just a second. And while that's warm, I usually pull these off. But we're going to do one more step. So I'm going to hang this up here for a second. And we're going to go on to the next step. So I get these little jars at Hobby Lobby. They are $1.29 each. They're really inexpensive jars. Nice thing is they have that inside lid, because if it can be spilled, I'm going to do it. And then I use this Barlow's clear. You get that half pound, and it's pretty inexpensive. Then I put a tablespoon or two of clear in there. Generally, if you're going to mix, whether it's pigments, flake, mica powders, whatever you're going to mix in, you're going to go about 7 parts of clear to 1 part of what you're mixing in. So I figure 2 tablespoons of that. I got this pixie dust, 8-bit baits, man. It's great stuff. And this is bluegill. And I've chosen bluegill because if we look really close at this, maybe the light will let it shine through. This has these tiny, tiny green flake in it with those multiple tones. And so bluegill kind of has that green, gold, blue shift to it. It's a mica shift. And that's really kind of a neat effect. So two of those 7 parts would be, well, it'd be less than a quarter, it'd be about an eighth. It does not take very much of what you're mixing in. So we'll put an eighth in here of this pixie dust, and especially pixie dust, because pixie dust is so fine. If you get too much pixie dust in, you can actually choke out what you're trying to do. Now put the lid back on and shake it around to get it all stirred in that clear. Then, see, you can make a mess. I can do it. We're going to get my paint cup out here, put it in there, and then dump this in. You know, 2 tablespoons is usually about enough to cover, you know, go up about a quarter way in your thing. And then we get all the clear in. There we go. And then we'll start turning this on. See if you can see this one. Now, clear is heavy, so it's hard to float. But if you get enough air crank to it, now you see how that rose up? That's why I only put about a quarter, so I'm about halfway. Let me see if I can get you down a little closer to this so that you can really see that roil. How's that look, Billy? Can you see that pretty good? Looks like you can. Move it over there a little bit. Now, so we got this one hot. Well, we've been talking. And the longer you leave it on there, the better it's going to heat up all the way through and hold that heat. So we'll get our tubing on there. We're going to dip it in our copper head, tap it off. I go right back so that the surface of the copper head is warm, and then I go into my clear. And look at what that did. That is a whole different, I don't know why it won't focus. Focus on my hand, but not on that jig. There, now you can see it. That's a whole different jig now, especially when you compare it to this one that we did without the 8-bit bait. So 8-bit products are like taking your jigs and putting them on steroids. But now, between Copperhead and this pixie dust, the bluegill pixie dust, that jig head looks like a bluegill or a bass, you know, with that kind of greenish gold tint to it. So if you throw a soft plastic behind it that's a bass imitation or a bluegill imitation, it's going to match up so closely it'll actually look like their head. So yeah, I love that pixie dust. Now, the other thing I do is I put a piece of blue painter's tape on the lid, and then I can write on there what it is in this container, because you sure don't want to lose that. But let's do a jig here real quick, or spinner. Yeah, adding some bling. Putting it on steroids. That's what I always figured it was. Yeah, I got some of these. Good. Now these are a weedless. This is the poison tail jig from Do It Molds. So it's weedless, and normally where the wire is where the hook eye would come out. But I've gone to a different hook, and I put a little slot in there with a file so that I could use this wire. And then I bend a little loop on the end of the wire, put these straight shank hooks on them, and then now I can make a spinner out of that instead of a jig. I like that poison tail because it has a really nice little skirt ring on it, a little spot for the skirt. But once that starts warming up a little bit, I'll put my my little pin in there to keep it from getting paint in that hole. And this is for a buzz bait. The way I got this is a straight wire on here. So we'll go on to that one, put that one on there to warm up. And then we didn't change out our cup, did we? So we'll shut this one down. Take it out, and we're going to actually just put this one in. And then dump the powder back in there. So now the things to note is where you're going to put these slots. I like them just kind of at an angle so that I can reach front and back, and we're going to go down with both. So this one's warm. Put it in there, line it up, go down. You can give it a shake if you need to. Tap it off, right back to your heat. Now, that is a really cool effect on there. So, but we want things that are on steroids. So I grab my brush, I go into this one, and I tap some of that on. So that I got it on just the head, and then we'll go back to the heat with it. And now the bottom of this jig has that green look to it from that pixie dust. I hope that's showing up. I don't know if it is or not. But then as it cools down, you can just twist that pin, it'll come right out. And then you hang it up and get it ready to go in your oven. Any place you don't want the powder, just go with your fingernail or something and scratch it off. Some people are bothered if it gets on the wire. You can always take one of these tubings, these shrink tubings, slide it up on there, shrink it down, and then when it's done, you can cut that off. You can even do that with your regular spinners that have that R-bend in it. This stuff's pretty flexible. You might need a shorter piece. I can see you in there. You can't hide from me. Good, I slide that on, go around that R-bend. Now it's up there. I can shrink that down. And now you can see it won't get any paint up, above where that wire starts in there. So, okay, here we go. We got our spinner on here, straight down into the paint, come out. By heating these only to 400 degrees, keeping them a little bit, what most people would consider on the cool side, you can be in that powder a little longer and it's not going to keep building. If that jig is real hot, it'll just keep building and building and building. So on this one, instead of doing the bottom, we can do the top and make it greener like a bass. Now we'll go back to our heat for a second. Get that warmed up, and look at that. Man, I hope you guys can see that. I wonder if I put, maybe that'll help. They're kind of focused on it. But you can definitely see that green effect from that pixie dust. Beautiful stuff. I love pixie dust. If it was edible, I'd be eating it. It looks that good. So we'll get this one, and we'll go down into our powder, come back out, tap it off. And this one we'll do the same thing. We'll just do a little bit on the top. And I do it until I just see it set on there and not melt off. And then I go back to the heat. That way it's got a nice buildup. But with the green that's already in there, in the copperhead, the pixie dust just, it kind of brings that green out a little more. Once that cools down a little bit, you can just slide this off or just take a knife and cut it off. But you can see that one didn't get any powder up on that wire at all. So, but turn this noisy thing off. It'll take it a second. But that's the basics of how to use your fluid bed efficiently. Man, that is such a massive difference between those two. The pixie dust on there just screams, eat me. I don't think there's a fish around that can resist those. Make sure before you put these in the oven, you pull those heat shrink tubings off. So you've been having fun with it, Billy? I know you've been pretty busy. You said you had a revival this week. That's kind of fun, I'll bet. I've never gone to a revival. I grew up in a Lutheran church. And so they just didn't do a lot of revivals. We had a really good youth pastor and used to do a lot of stuff with him. We'd go fishing and hiking and rock hounding, and you know, he was a great guy. Kind of miss him. But then you can dump your powder back in here. You can see what a big mess I've made. Now, one thing to note is when you're cleaning these out, do the lightest color first on your paper. Back in there. Okay. And there's a reason for that. Now, what I can do is slide this off of there. Get all my stuff off. I can take my cup and give it a good hard thump, and it's clean. So some of your darker colors will leave maybe just a trace amount in. You just take a little air compressor, blow them out. But see, now I can get all that powder into the center, dump it right back into my jar, and I don't waste any that way. So put my lid back on, my inner lid, because if I don't, I'll make a mess. I promise. And then I'll put a piece of tape on there and I'll mark what I did on it. So, and those store, they keep them really, really nice. And then I'll turn the paper over so that I'm on the clean side. These things got a lock ring on them. It's kind of a pain. I wish I could get it off, but you can't. So we'll shut that one off. Unplug my air pump for now. You can see there's just a tiny, tiny amount left in there. It's not very much at all. So I'll just take an air compressor and blow that one out. Oops, I got this one. There we go. You know, this stuff is kind of expensive. $15, $20 a jar, depending on which ones you're buying. So I try to keep every last bit of it I can. But you can look in there and see that's green glitter that you see in there. That's a 0.0007 size glitter. I used a comparator one time and measured it. Um, if you're going to mix glitter in to that clear powder, glitter this size, that 040 glitter, it will not suspend. It'll sink to the bottom and stay there. And plus, when you get it on these little jig heads, especially something this size, this is going to be an underspin. That glitter is just too big. So a good size or a workable size, the maximum size I would go to, this is marked, this is Hobby Lobby, and it's 196, which is 0.00873 something. But if you compare it to your jig head, it's actually a usable size glitter. It's still large though. So you can get from Hobby Lobby, where did I hide that stuff? I'm running away. Don't try to find me. You can get this stuff. This is called ultra fine glitter at Hobby Lobby. And it comes in these little bottles and they're in a box, and there's like 2 trays in a box, all kinds of different colors. But let's see if I can take that off and show you that one. I'll probably make a mess. But you can see that is like dust. And what this is 0.0005. So it's super fine. But that is almost the same size as what's in pixie dust. So it's really super fine. It floats very well. You get it in that clear and it'll mix in really nice. So if you want to add a little bit of glitter, that is the stuff to get. And you get it from Hobby Lobby. They always have those kits in there in the store. You can see it on my finger how it just it's just a tiny amount of bling. And it comes in standard colors, it comes in metallic colors, it comes in holographic colors. I mean, anything you can think of, it's in there. So, but this stuff I think works the best for adding just glitter. Now, a word of caution, 2 tablespoons or even 3 tablespoons of the clear, okay? And you're going to use like a 32nd of a tablespoon of this because it's so fine, it just spreads everywhere. And it puts a very nice coating that doesn't overpower. And you can start with the 32nd of a spoon in there, get it going, dip a jig. If it's not enough, dip the jig a second time or add another 32nd or half a 32nd of glitter to your clear and try it on the next jig and see if you can get it to where you like it. It's very easy to overpower a jig with glitter, and then it looks like a disco ball instead of a jig. So you can get bigger jars of the extra fine. This is extra fine. So I don't know, is that the right way for you to read that? This is the extra fine stuff. It's 3 times larger than the ultra fine. And it's listed as ultra fine or extra fine. So this is even smaller than this stuff. This stuff is 015. Yeah, 196, 015. So this is 3 zeros. So this is even finer than this. This stuff will work. Use very little of it because it is big. So if you get too big a glitter in here, you'll actually get a crusty appearance on your face of your jig that you're trying to coat. So keeps it giving me a warning. I don't know. Are we getting glitchy? I've gotten bigger jars of the ultra fine as well. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you can, but when you're using a 32nd of a spoonful, these little jars, I'll bet I've had these for 15 years. So, other things you can add are just mica powders if you want to build your own color of glitter of a pigment. You can get these kits on Amazon. This is small tongue. Yeah, small tongue, and it's a mica powder. And you can get some really cool effects with mica powder. So 3 tablespoons of your clear, and then one that I did was brilliant blue and blue mixed together. And then I put copper in there. It's right here. So I did like a 32nd of brilliant blue, a 64th of blue, and a 64th of copper. And when you mix all that together, you get one that's this color blue with highlights of this color blue and this color copper, because the different colors float differently within the clear. And so when you mix them, the lightest colors will be the predominant color. Then, like if we're looking at a poison tail here, or not a poison tail, but one of these jigs, you can see it has all these different reliefs and stuff. The eye socket, it's supposed to be a gill. It has some detail in the nose. Well, the base of it will be this light blue. Around that eye socket, the edge of that will turn dark blue, and then where this gill plate mostly is going to be this copper color. And so you get multiple colors by mixing these together, and you just gotta, the best way I can describe to do it is take a little paintbrush. I can find mine again. And pick out the colors you want to do. So like being an underspin, we're going to imitate, let's say we want to imitate a walleye, a small walleye. I would start with something like this light gold. I'm going to make a mess here. I'm going to get the paper so that I make a bigger mess. And tap just a hair of that on there, and then let it fall off. And you can see where it wants to stick is in the shallowest spots. So then they've got a little bit of this kind of brown red to them. Do the same thing. Just tap a little bit of that on there. And then tap it on. And then tap it off and see where it sticks. Now you can see the only spot where that stuck is like right at the edge of that gill plate. So this is obviously it's heavier than that gold. So it's going to stick in the lowest spots. The gold, the light gold, is going to stick in the high spots. And that would make kind of a nice, you can see right there. Right there, you kind of see that color with the between the gold and the light gold. Yeah, there's a good. So the other thing these are good for, and this is one that what is he? His name is Noah. I think it's Smalley Smasher. He goes by Smalley Smasher. He'll take this stuff and on his soft plastic molds, I got to get into my cabinet of bait makers that'll always be better than me. That's the stickers that I got. Is all the bait makers will always be better than me. So he'll get in and actually take different colors and paint them into the details of these molds. And then when you inject or like hand pour in this one, that powder shows up, but then you have to clear dip after it so that the powder will stay on. But it's really a cool effect. And all these mica powders, this whole kit was oh man, I think it was 80 different bottles, different colors, because it has mica powders and mica glitters in it. But I'll get that mica glitters and show you what that is. So these are mica glitters. And what they are is halfway between this size and your extra fine. Set on it. So you can see it's just a little bit smaller than this, but it's a little bit bigger than that. And all of these mica glitters here and all of this kit here, I think was like $20 on Amazon. It was super, super inexpensive. But you can take these and paint them into your soft plastic molds, or you can dip your brush and powder coat, just put it on your worn powder coat and some of it will stick on there. Or you can mix it in with the clear and make your own custom colors with it. And I know, Billy, you've been using different kinds of mica powders to make pigments. So what color glitter do you use the most on your jig heads? Green, black, or red? So it depends on where I'm going to fish. Here's what you have to know about glitters and colors. You can have 1,000 different glitters. So this one's red. Don't have a lot left in there. Here's a nice green, deep green. And then you can get into golds. And then blacks. And you can see I use a lot of the black. When you're underwater with a fish's eye, like we have what they call trichromatic eyes. In other words, we have 3 different color cones or color sensitive cones in our eyes. We have red, yellow, and blue. Okay. And between those 3, our brain can perceive billions of colors. A fish, however, has what they call a bichromatic eye. So, yeah, you can match the hatch. But more than matching the hatch, we're going to look at how a fish sees and the depth, at the depth it is. So, with bichromatic eyes, reds and greens, that's all it sees. Every other color, yellows, blacks, the blues, these royal blues, they don't see those like we do. What they see is blue is a combination of red and green. Okay. And so they perceive it as a mixture of those 2 colors. And because they're bichromatic, they can actually only perceive about 200 different colors. So blacks are an empty space to them. Golds are a filled space. In other words, what we would perceive as white. Green is green, red is red, and blue is a combination of red and green. So they perceive the colors differently. But the problem with colors, and the reason why fish only need bichromatic eyes, is because you have to look at how light penetrates water. When light hits water, you have a billion different colors in it. But the main ones we're going to look at is ultraviolet will penetrate all the way down hundreds of feet in clear water and tens of feet in muddy water. Okay. Red, on the other hand, and infrared will only penetrate a limited amount. So if you're fishing in 5 feet of water, red is going to go all the way to the bottom, especially on a clear lake. If you got a green stain lake or a tea stain lake, it'll penetrate almost to the bottom. If you got a muddy lake, it's only going to go in a foot or two. So what I have here in Wyoming is mostly very clear waters. I mean, I've always laughed before I had forward-facing sonar that I had forward-facing sonar. I'd just stand on the front of my boat and look down because we could see the salmon 50 feet down. The water's that clear. But yellow light and white light are going to penetrate all the way to the bottom, hundreds, maybe thousands of feet in the ocean where it's clear. So white light, as we see white, is actually a mixture of all the colors together, which is kind of strange because if you mixed all these colors, you'd make a muted brownish black. So it doesn't make sense. It's kind of counterintuitive when you think of white light as a mixture of every color there is. The thing about white light is it has infrared and ultraviolet, and that's what makes it white to us. So a fish can't see, that ultraviolet color. So to them, they never see white light. Instead, if you use a pearl or a bright white like this, what they're going to see that as is a dusty gray. So when you look at, let's say, a gizzard shad imitation, it's got that pearl belly and kind of that smoky top on it. That pearl, being a whitish color, is going to become dusty gray, but that smoke is going to become like black. It's an empty space in the water. So if you got green or tea-stained water and you see something that doesn't appear to you go through it, it's like, think of it as seeing a ghost. So you see this gray belly and a ghost top. That's what makes, and they learn by instinct, that's what they want to eat, is that gray belly with a ghosty top. That's what makes anything with browns or grays on the top, so your smokes, so effective. So if you paint your jig heads to match that, dip them in pearl and then take a little bit of smoke or black, or you can even use carbon mica powders, these colors. This is, they call it dark bronze, and you got the silver grays. Put that on the top, the fish perceives that like you would a ghost. It's something that blocks visually the green that they see, but it doesn't appear to them. So it's confusing to us, but to a fish, it makes absolute sense. They grew up that way. So when I try to add glitters to my jigs, I try to think, okay, where am I going to fish this jig? A little crappie jig, something small like this, you're obviously not going to fish that in 50 feet of water. It'd take an hour to get down there, especially if you had like a braided line on. So I'm going to fish those little bitty jigs in the shallows. And since in the shallows, red will penetrate, I want to use red glitters in it. If I'm going to a big jig like this, where I'm going to sink it fast, I'll just take one of these, right? I'm going to sink that fast and get all the way to the bottom as quick as I can. Then the blacks work, or like we did, where we added the green to that pixie dust with that green and gold in it. So now the yellow appears to what we would perceive as white. The greens they can see even down into the deep water. So greens and yellows are a good choice for something that would go deep. But it's also a great choice for your shallow jigs. So if I'm going after crappie or bluegill, I want to use something more in the blues and reds because that's what they're attracted to. If I'm going after bass on their beds, I want to get something with that greens and golds in it because then that's going to aggravate those bass because they see that color as a crappie or a bluegill coming in to eat their eggs and they want to protect their beds. So you'll get reaction strikes using this, especially this bluegill pixie dust. Great stuff. I love that pixie dust. I actually only have I think I have 7 different 8-bit products, and I've got to get more. I mean, that's there. I think if you're in a bait making world, they should have laws written into the Constitution that you have to use pixie dust in your jigs. Cool. Well, I'm glad you're picking something up, Billy. Hopefully it helps you some, especially when you start choosing what you want to add to your jigs, because these there's 100 different bait makers or pigment makers out there. You got Protec and Barlow's. They all make great pigments, but they're kind of bland. I mean, this is white pearl. That's a great base. I use white pearl all the time. This black from Barlow's with the chartreuse glitter is pretty nice, but the glitter, if you look in there, is pretty small. It's fine like this stuff. And that's that green holographic in black that Barlow's puts out. I'll show you what the mistake is. Here it is. You get the green with the blue glitter in it. You look at that blue in there, and that blue is huge. And so when you coat your jig with it, especially if you're doing anything smaller than like a 1/4 ounce or an 1/8 ounce, something this size, that glitter is so big on that head of that jig, it actually looks like a crust. And it's not very attractive. And it's hard to get that big of glitter to stay floated in your fluid bed. It doesn't want to roll over very well. So the Barlow's black with the blue glitter, yeah, they call it black with blue glitter, I think is a mistake. I don't like it. I don't like how it outcomes, but I know that I could get straight black and then get their clear, and I could add ultra fine glitter like this to it and have that same black and blue that, face it, that's a fish catcher no matter what you do. But the blue on it will look much better, but it's not going to take very much of this blue. You're talking maybe a 64th of a teaspoon in 3 teaspoons of clear. And you'll have plenty of blue sparkle on your jig, especially if you're doing like Billy, you're probably doing a ton of these little bitty 64th of an ounce ball heads. A little tiny bit, if you have 4 or 5 flakes of this blue on one of those heads, you have plenty of blue in that black. So it does not take very much. So even if you don't want to get the big bottles of the ultra fine, just buy these little kits. And I think there's 24 colors. And I want to say that I think when I bought this kit, it was like $8 for 24 different colors of glitter. So super, super good value. Perch is another great one. Kind of a sandy tan color, but they use a little bit of it's a green, it's a shift glitter, a color shift glitter. So one direction the glitter is clear, the other next direction it's got a green hint to it. But if you took that and then dipped it in this stuff we made today with the bluegill pixie dust, man, you'd have a killer jig out of that color, because that's a really good color for especially fish-shaped jig heads with these underspins. That's a phenomenal color for an underspin. So it's hard to answer what glitter I would use, because I look at the biology of the fish, I look at where I'm fishing, how deep I'm fishing, and what I'm fishing with. And all of that kind of I got like a checklist in my mind that I go through, and that determines what pigment I'm going to use, what glitter I'm going to use, how many coats. Yeah, 30 seconds. You can actually get 60/4. A measuring spoon for 60/4 is perfect for pulling these kind of glitters, and especially these ultra fines. A 60/4 is perfect for that amount, because you can add a 60/4. If it's not enough, add a 60/4 and just keep adding it by the 60/4 until you get where you want. But this stuff floats so well and mixes in so well with your clear. You're going to find that it puts a really nice sparkly coating on. Bluegill, golden trout, and warmouth pixie dust. Ooh. Ooh. Golden trout. So let's say you want to do an underspin like this. Okay. I would use and this gets a little tricky doing it this way. I would take and heat this up to, even if you set your heat gun at 350, as cool as you can go, and then dip this down in your, oops, sorry about that. Dip it down in your pigment, in your fluid bed, so that you go just past the eye socket, maybe halfway through that gill that's on there, okay, with pearl. Then warm it back up and dip it in PB&J. Now, PB&J looks really light in here, but it gets a little darker. But it already has a little bit of purple flake in it, okay? So you dip the whole thing after the pearl, get it back up to about 350, dip it in this PB&J, and what that's going to do, you're going to have two light coats on there, but the PB&J will darken the whole jig with that peanut butter brown, right? The head where you dipped in the pearl is going to have a pearl reflectiveness to the PB&J, okay? So now half is reflective and the other half isn't. So now dip that whole thing, mix golden brown, a 64th of golden brown with 3 tablespoons of clear, and dip the whole thing in that with that golden trout mixed in there. And man, that would make a killer jig. Warmouth, I think, is what? Purples. So it would look good if you did PB&J and then warmouth. And bluegill, I think I've got bluegill here. Yeah, bluegill is blue greens. So bluegill, just if you did a black head and then dip it in bluegill, that really explodes. You know, a matter of fact, we might be able to do that so that you could see it. Let's try that real quick. So this is black with blue flake. We won't get real fancy with this. Big guys out here, so we can see what we're doing. bit on there. Somebody in New York wants to chat at me. See if I can find it. Got such a mess going here. Get my heat shrinks. Now, when I'm doing these underspins, I do both sides of it. I do the eye of the hook, and I do where the little spinner's going to hook up. If you paint this bottom part of this, where that spinner blade hooks up, you're going to have the swivel on there. When you go to close that up, it'll actually chip and fracture your paint. So I keep it covered so that I don't have to worry about it. But I'm going to stir this up and get it nice and loose. It's hard. Blacks are heavy. When you add glitter to it, it gets even heavier. So, and then we'll go into our bluegill here. I bet that's going to look just sharp. I never thought of that. Blacks will make pixie dust explode. So we'll dip it in our black. Go back to our heat. Into the woods. How you doing, buddy? Okay, we got to warm back up. Now we're going to go into our pixie dust. Oh, you can already see it. This is going to be on fire. Pull these off. I can get them off. There we go. I had to argue with that one. I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe get that out of where I'm going to spill. I know what to do. There. Now you can really see that pixie dust gave that just the right touch of highlight to that. You got the blue greens of the pixie dust. Man, that thing, you can kind of see the colors. Yeah, warmouth is that gold green. And so it would look good as well. Use this black with the blue flake from Barlow's. The flake's a little large, but even if you just got straight black from Barlow's, or get your ProTech in black and do just straight black and then do your pixie dust with that warmouth, that'd be a killer, And again, it'd take maybe a 64th. You might add a second 64th to 3 tablespoons. But yeah, that would warmouth would be a great one. I need to get some of that. Mixed with clear, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just 8-bit, the 8-bit pixie dusts, I think were made to mix. Whether it's the clear powder coat, I've even mixed it in with my clear varnish and that I'm doing the wooden lures and airbrushed it on, and man, it looks great. So that would even show up on if you had just dipped it in a pearl, that pixie dust will still show up. It's not quite as pronounced as black, or like this is one we did earlier. That is copperhead on the jig, and then we dipped it in the clear with the bluegill pixie dust. Man, that came out. That looks great. So yeah, every thing that I've got from 8-bit, you know I mix it with clear and try it. First thing I do, I even before I put it in plastic baits, I put it on a jig. So oh yeah, I bet. Who was it? There's a girl that builds rods. I'd seen her doing that. God, what the heck is her name? Can't remember, but she mixes it in the epoxy. Man, it is great. Making custom colors for dipping jigs. Yeah, yeah. Into the Woods, he has a great one. So, but you missed the fluid bed part of it. I'll put it over here. But there's the fluid bed, and then I get the little cups from these ones from uh oh man, Lurecraft, and it's already got the filter built into the cup and everything, and that's a great filter. It's a really good one. Yeah, I'll have to get a rod from you one of these days and have you put that, because I could see if you wrapped it with black thread and then put some kind of pixie dust in the epoxy over that black, man, that'd be perfect. I don't think you could get any better than that. So I used to build fly rods, and the big thing back when I was building fly rods was to uh, spray a clear epoxy based finish on the rod, which looked really nice, and I'd mix it with different mica powders and stuff. But after about a year using the fly rod, that finish would be all fractured up. And then they started coming out with the graphite blanks, where you could get the graphite blanks. They were really expensive at the time. But man, that made a great fly rod. Quite a few orders. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I quit trying to get my camera work to be good. I just make it efficient. The hell with it. But you've got videos with a ton of great information and great ideas and stuff. So um, I'll kind of show you real quick here. What I make for doing the spinners is I take the same cup with that same filter, yep, and I'll put it in my fluid bed and get my pigment in there. But then when you're doing jigs and like spinners and stuff, you've got a fat slot that you can see there, and then that narrow slot. Well, the fat slot is where the hook goes. Narrow slot, you put your wire right down in there. You only got to put about a quarter of the bed with your powder on there. And you go down, this rubber on there keeps the powder from leaking out. So you go down, coat it, come back out, and you got a perfectly coated spinner. There's one that we did. That's going to be an inline buzz bait. Where'd the other ones go? Oh, there they are. I guess you got to look where they are. And then see, I did these are just regular spinners, but it's so easy with this rubber on there, and all that is this silicone that you go to Walmart and you buy those little silicone cookie sheet mats and cut them in strips and glue them in there, one inside, one outside. You don't leak at all. So Rod building's fun, and it is addictive. It's as bad as making jigs and soft plastic baits. The lead pouring series is just about everything needed for beginners. That series didn't get a ton of traction. Yeah, I think people think of the jig making as common knowledge. And so, yeah, pouring the lead doesn't ever get much traction. But if you take that lead pouring and go right into powder coating and do fancy stuff like this one, you can see we took a brush and put the pixie dust just on that side. This one here, we put it just on the bottom side. So, you know, if you go into doing that fancy powder coating, I wonder if the lead making wouldn't gain a little more feedback out of it. Yeah, you know, because what inspired this is I was watching my dad struggle because had a mixer for he mixes fertilizer for his flowers. I mean, he's got a 3-acre yard and it's all planted in irises and roses and just flowers that he grows in his greenhouse. And he was taking a little drum mixer that he made and trying to mix these fertilizers in it, and it would pour out the top of his cup when he was mixing it. And so I said, you know, Dad, if you got a silicone mat and put it over the top and just put a bolt down through the center to hold that silicone mat in place, you could lift the mat up to dump the fertilizer out. Well, it works so well. Then it dawned on me, well, crap, that's how you paint jigs with wires in them. So the best lead videos have been mold modifications and tricks with pouring. Yeah, mold modifications I think are a big one because everybody wants to do it. This is a poison tail, and I think it was your video that gave me the idea of how to turn a poison tail into a straight wire, you know, for a spinner. You know, and I suppose you could use these little R-bend wires in it too. Probably work just fine. I've never tried it. I've always done it with a straight wire, and then I do the inline buzz baits. But yeah, that mold modification, I remember watching you do one, kind of showed me how to do one for myself. So yeah, those mold modifications, you either got the knowledge or you don't. I mean, when they design those molds, they don't design them to be changed. That's for sure. And I've seen, you know, the ones that I want to do is figure out, because that's a nice jig. It's just because it's a cast mold, it's got a rough finish to it. And I've tried silicones, I've tried all kinds of stuff to make these molds smooth inside, and nothing's worked. The only thing that works is just making it on a CNC, which nowadays would be easy. You could get a desktop CNC that has a 3-dimensional scanner on it. You could stand this thing up, it would scan all the way around, throw it right into a program. You don't even have to do nothing but turn the switch on. Yeah, most modifications don't ruin the mold, you know, so yeah. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, because I did mine. I think it was when your video, I was one of the first people to watch your video on it. But you can see that just lays right in there, and the wire sticks straight out. Now, I don't know if we laid this one up there, might give us a clue. Yeah, okay. And I think I'd seen you combat that because your wire goes up and comes back in. I think what I'd seen you do was you move this to a different position within your mold so that that wire came out past that or something. So, and then the other thing I did was I opened this up so that I could use these pins in that space. And then I just cut the head off of one. But yeah, those are kind of a great mold modifications are a big thing. I think people like doing it. Mike from Bar Down said he's on and been trying to connect, but his comments don't seem to be coming through. Oh shit. I wonder why. Let's see if it's one of my settings here. Maybe. Participants. It doesn't even show him as a participant. It shows just the two of you. Reactions, timestamps, moderation activity, all that's off. Community moderation, I don't know what that is. Nope, that opened it up something else. I went away. Help! There I am. Huh. I wonder why it's not letting Mike come through. Well, just tell him to text me. And I think he's got my phone number. But he can text me, and then whatever he texts, I can try to answer for him. Hey, Jeffrey came. How you doing, bud? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I wonder why it's not letting Mike come through. His computer doesn't like him. Reading moment was the hacksaw mod for making it direct. Oh yeah. That one, which mold did I do for that? Uh, oh, I got another poison tail that I think I did that. Uh, but instead of using it, but I got a milling machine, so I milled it, the little eye thing in there that I needed. So yeah, poor Mike. He can watch after it's over. And if he's got any questions, I know he's got my he's off the rails. That's why I call him Rails. Love his videos, man. They are so fun to watch. Man, I love what he's doing. So, and that's where this fluid bed is going to is Mike at Bar Down. Show you guys what I got here. This is the one going to Mike that we built today. So it don't take me very long to build. So, but because I made a bunch of boards and pre-drilled them. I got a bunch of these angles that are pre-drilled. So when somebody orders one, they tell me if they want 1 cup, 2 cup, 3 cup, whatever they want, then I've got the boards already made up for it. And these are, if you go to like Home Depot or Menards or something. These are the little brackets if you're going to make like a shelf out of PVC pipe or a table out of PVC pipe. These are what you use for the post in it. And so, you know, a 2-inch fits right in them, really nice. You get these cups that are already have the filter built onto it, and you know, then your one part that's removable. Get that off of there. And having one part, you create an environment where you need very little volume of air and very little pressure. So some of those guys that get those great big and they got the fittings and they got the little unions and everything in it, they need such a high volume of air, their fluid bed is ineffective. So he's been killing it and pumping videos out. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how he does it. You know, a video on Wednesdays, and then a video on the weekend, and he coaches on the weekends. Man, and his videos they are fantastic. I love watching his videos. Do you have problem with some of your powders getting so light it's floating all over the room? Um, yeah, let me just show you real quick here. Trying to remember which color that is that does it. So I put my cup in before I ever add the pigment. Okay, fluorescent pink. Now that's a very light powder. Get my pump going here. Should close down. Here's the trick to it. I don't have my paper under there. When you do it, start with a quarter. Now, smoke bomb? Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Let's see if I can get this to where you can see in there. So, most people, what they say is you go see the volcanoes. See if I can get you down a little lower. It's hard to see because it's such a terribly light color. There you go. See the little volcanoes around the edge? Most people say once you see that, you turn it down. Well, if you turn it down to where you're not getting volcanoes, you can watch that powder start to settle back down. And if there's glitter or flake in the powder at all, it won't rotate and stay stirred in. So then you're constantly stirring it. Oops, sorry, knocked you over again. You're constantly stirring it to get it going. The trick is use very little, only about a quarter. Okay, there's the volcanoes. We're going to keep going. And right there, you start to see it. I don't know if you guys can really see. That's such a terrible color to use for an example, isn't it? That's black is another one. Fluorescent, the fluorescent colors are terrible for floating, but if you use very little and you get it to where it's boiling, then I want to dump that all over. What will happen is you'll see that all of it stays in the cup. You can see on the edges the whole cup is glowing, but none of it came out. This is a good example. You'll be able to see this one. This is one of my favorites. So I start with about a quarter cup in there. And then we'll get you guys angled here so that you can see it a little better. So we'll go, there's volcanoes. And everybody says from there you go back to reduce that. Well, you notice it just all died. So you go volcanoes, keep going, add air, get a ton of air going in there. Now, if you look in there, you can see that boil and roll over. And as soon as it's boiling and rolling over, what's moving is going to grab what would normally come out and float through the air and pull it back down into it. So you actually, it's counterintuitive. The more air you add, the less dust you have. So, smoke bomb ventilation experiment. That's a cool. Yeah. Yeah. Let me know when that one's out. I'll bet that'll be funny. Right there. That's where we want it. And then when you go to powder coat, even these great big, here, these are pretty big. Even the biggest jig you have will just settle right down in there and disappear. I mean, there is nothing hard in that pigment at all. That would look cool to do this copperhead on some of these and then cast them in. This is that internal weighted system. I've been putting a pearl, the white pearl and yellow chartreuse pearl on these, and then cast them in, and man, it makes a huge difference. I need to order or make some red pearl. Red pearl, I bet, would look really good on those jigs. But just saw that on Instagram. Oh, somebody powder coating those and then casting them in. How'd it look? I'll bet it looks really good. I've been doing it, they've been doing different colors though, huh? Anybody in here going to make it to the bait makers meetup? Nope. I got surgery that day or the day before. So I don't get to go. Are you going? Looks like it'd be a blast. Paper go. See it. This is the other reason why I hate these fluorescent colors. So it's still, they leave that nasty dust. But a quick blow job and they come pretty clean. So there. And then you can take that little bit. I'm such a cheapskate. My biggest problem is I just can't afford to buy a lot of this stuff. So, and every one of these, like these fluid beds and air vices that I build when I sell them, all of that money goes to taking a handicap kid out fishing. So, which is kind of fun. You guys ought to try it sometime. It's a hoot. They come up with some of the craziest crap. I've seen them trying to fish with shoelaces tied onto a hook. Yeah, what they're doing. I had a ski wreck about 2.5 years ago now. I was in a race and I was going around this turn, and I'd drawn. I was like 23rd starting position, and so it gotten really packed down. The sun was on it, and then by the time I got to go, it was in the shade and it turned to ice. And so I'd gone around and lost the skis out from under me, and I slid right off this 80-foot cliff and dropped down through the trees. And I broke my back, broke my knee, and broke my shoulder. And so they did the surgery on my back. waited for a year, did the surgery on my knee. Well, in the meantime, I'd gotten an infection in that original knee, and so it deteriorate the bone. And then I'm such a genius, I'd climb in an airplane and get up to 15,000 feet and jump out of it. So when I landed, it fractured where that knee hooks into the bone, and I got another infection in it. And so they're going to go in, and where the knee connects to the tibia, they're going to cut all that off and put in. They've taken the MRIs of my leg and made a synthetic bone that goes in there that they graft into it. And so I'll be in the hospital for 4 or 5 days until I can get up and walk, and then they'll let me go home. So it's not going to be terrible, but it keeps me out of the bait makers meetup, which is kind of terrible. I was looking forward to it. Take fishing from time to time. He's autistic. Yeah, autistic are fun, aren't they? I love it. You won't be there till Friday afternoon, huh? So you got surgery too, or you just won't make it till later? Yeah, well, I appreciate the prayers. I'm gonna need them, but you know, everybody's always, oh, ouch, that's gonna hurt. Surgery, going under the knife. When I was in the service, I got shot. One bullet went through my arm and across through my chest, and so they had to go in and repair lungs, and they had to repair the diaphragm, and uh, it they had to repair one of the muscles on my arm where the bullet went through. The second bullet went in my knee and came out my heel, and it shattered the tibia and fibia. I mean, everything was just goo. And so when they did the amputation, that actually was a relief compared to what I had been going through. And infections just hurt. And I got that MRSA infection. And so once you have it, it spreads through your whole body. You can't get rid of it. You always have it. So every little scrape or cut, I got to get on antibiotics because of that stupid MRSA, but it kind of sucks. But, what do you do? It's life, I guess. But because of that, I've had 226 total surgeries. So through Friday night, I can't leave to head to the meetup until after service is over. Yeah, because that's what, next weekend or weekend after, isn't it? Next weekend. Yeah. Man, it looks like it's going to be fun. You guys will have to say hi to everybody for me. So I wish I could go, but I'll be laying in a VA hospital. Probably with some fat, ugly nurse hanging around over me. VA and like them civilian hospitals get all the skinny, good-looking nurses. We get what's left over. So, but next year I'll be at the bait makers meetup. I'll take my boat. Yeah, this Saturday. Okay. So how far is that? You're not too far from it, are you, Billy? Oh man, that rod, they call it a nail, titanium. They tried that on man. Man, that was miserable. Fortunately, my local VA is actually pretty great. A ton of help. I can honestly say, well, you only got a few hours, so that won't be bad for you, Bill. I have better care at the VA than I ever do at a civilian doctor. And there's a reason, you go into a doctor's office and you sit there for an hour. They take you back, you wait for another half hour, the doctor rushes in, 30 seconds later, they're rushing out, then they rush back in and they're back and forth, and you get a total of maybe 5 minutes with the doctor. But if you go to a VA hospital, you're sitting in a waiting room for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then you go back and you spend a full hour with the doctor, and they get to know you and everything that's wrong and what they can do to help you, and they formulate a plan with you. It's not just telling you, oh, this is what we're going to do. They actually discuss it. I like the VA, and I get great care out of the VA. I just hate staying in a hospital. I really wish they'd do surgery and let me go home, but I understand that's dangerous. Can't do it. But they did tell me the stitches come out after about 2 weeks, and after the stitches come out, I can go out on my boat and stuff. 13-hour drive for you. When I looked at what it was going to take, it was like 21 hours for me to get there. So, but we were going to go, and I was going to get there like 5 or 6 days ahead of time when we were going to take the camper and the boat. And the wife can go walking around the beach looking for rocks, and I can go out on a boat and fish, so. The VA gets a bad rap, and I think that started with that VA in Arizona and a person complaining that they couldn't get an appointment. And what it finally turned out to be is the person that couldn't get an appointment never asked for an appointment. And with the VA, unless you use your voice, they don't know. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to help you, nothing. So you've got to speak up at the VA. You got to tell them. Yeah, at the bait makers, they do a big fishing tournament thing, don't they? If I kind of remember right, they were talking about that. That's the only reason I was going to take the boat. Well, that and I just want to fish because here we've got 4 lakes that have largemouth. Every other lake has a smallmouth bass. We're lucky if we catch a 2-pound bass. And back there, I'm watching those guys pull 10-pounders out. So, yeah, I got to go get me a 10-pound bass. Yeah, the active duty is terrible, but the VA is great. When it comes down to prosthetics, I call my prosthetist up. I tell them what I want to do because, I get these wild hairs, and I tell them, hey, I want to go rock climbing. 2 weeks later, he mailed me a rock climbing foot for my leg. And then I told him, well, I want to try scuba diving. They sent me a set of tanks and a prosthetic with a fin on it for scuba diving. And so then I told him, well, I want to go skydiving. They sent me this foot that's got these huge shocks and springs in it for skydiving, and anything I want, you just call them up and tell them, and they'll get it for you. I mean, and as a veteran, you qualify, you can have like bathroom and kitchen modifications done. A lot of people don't realize that they'll build entryways into your house. So if you need stairs or a deck or whatever, they'll make that for you. And then if you also qualify for like your spouse can get spousal benefits for helping you around the house, stuff like that, washing your clothes. They get paid to wash your clothes. They don't know mine would have to do it anyway because she won't let me use the wash machine. You'll have a boat next year to take, huh? Are you looking around for a boat, Billy? I love my boat. I just got that new tracker. What do they call it? Pro Guide, little 18-foot. Man, that's a nice little boat. Scoots across the lake at about 35 miles an hour. My My Ranger will go faster, but I only use the Ranger when I'm in a tournament. So other than that, if I got grandkids or people with me or like those handicapped kids, I'm worried in that Ranger that they'll step off the edge of the boat because there's nothing on that Ranger, maybe a 4-inch lip. They'll do it for you too if you're a veteran. So uh, any vet qualifies for that. That's part of your benefits when you got out. So and then depending if you get a rating, a disability rating, you just get more and more benefits. So yeah, the VA's been great. You have a kayak, so that's good enough. I mean, you're usually just by yourself anyway, so um, you have to watch around. I got one here I'm working on. I just painted it. I take those older aluminum boats that basically have a couple benches in them and a little spot to hook a 10 horsepower gas motor. And I put in wood floors with carpeting, and I put in the pumps to keep the water out, and I put in a live well and put in storage lockers for rods and stuff all in those little boats. And then I sell them. And I got one now that I'll probably sell for like $350, $400. And it's got a 15 horse motor on it. It's kind of nice for two people. Medically retired from the Air Force. Oh, shit. So, yeah. Yeah. So, uh, you can go to rec therapy and get all kinds of, heck, if you want a kayak, you go to rec therapy and tell them you want a kayak so that you can have upper body strength and maintain weight and stuff like that. And they will buy you a kayak. So, your wife car first. Well, heck, if you want a car for her, I got one that I'd like to get rid of. You can come and get it. Old Oldsmobile. So I was kind of thinking I'd set it out there and shoot the Sherman tank at it. But it runs. I mean, it's nothing pretty, but it's a runner. So, but you want to get something nice for your wife. Something that's reliable so you don't got to go out in the middle of the night and fix it for her. Like that. I don't know if we've been on here. Does it tell us? What frames? Oh, shoot. We've been on here for 2 hours. Wow. Your wife is picky? Yeah, so is my owner. So, but I just bought my owner a brand new truck last year. Brand new bass boat for therapy. That would probably be psychology department. Go in there, tell them it keeps me from getting homicidal. I need a new boat. I wonder if that would be I wonder if the VA did. They might. That would be funny. If they do it, you got to let me know so that I can. Man, that would be fun. Got to turn on this. Oh, I got to show you guys before we turn this off the cabinet of everybody that'll always be better than me. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there it is. See? There's Billy. I got to put his new sticker up. I just got, oh man. I don't know if you've seen these. So here, we'll just do that real quick here. I'll set this down. We'll put this up like that so that you can see how terrible it is. There we go. I've got to show you these. Billy makes these. That's Billy's sticker. Let's see if I can get it better. There, we can see it. There it is. Yeah, that's his sticker. He's got a little sticker printer machine that cuts out the edges and everything, so that one's going up on the cabinet of everybody that'll always be better than me. Take your curve boat away and put me in a jacket. I don't know. VA doesn't want to keep people very bad. Make sure you didn't own any pew-pews. They wanted to take mine away. They better bring a semi. It's right up here. Look at that. Oh. It's official. Billy's on the cabinet of everybody that'll be better than I'll ever get. Right at the top tier. Look at that. There we go. Now you can see it. There's Billy. These GoPros are terrible cameras. Let's see if we can get that a little better. There you are. Now you can see you, Billy. On the cabinet of people that'll be better than me. That's pretty easy. I'm not a very good jig maker. Okay, so we can turn that one on, that one off, and that one off. There we go. The problem with, if they ever came to get guns, I'm pretty sure everybody that was a vet would kind of fight it, number one. But if they came to take my guns, the Sherman tank is parked on the hill with the barrel pointing down the driveway. They got to get past it first. Yeah, send me your stickers. So I got to send you some of mine. Mine aren't great either. They're not as nice as Billy's. Billy's got better stickers. I don't think they came out all that great. That's what mine looked like. So they're not terrible, but when you compare it, if you put the two side by side, you can just see the quality difference in the two stickers. So Billy's are really good. There's no big eyes or little U's. Yep. Yeah, that's true. If everybody would stick together, we would have world peace. I mean, that would be pretty easy to accomplish. That's, I don't know. People are too stuck on my needs are more important than your needs. So, I got to get to that parking spot in Wally World before you do because we're both going into the same crappy store. Yeah, the eagle is pretty cool. It's you'll have to look on maybe you can see it better on the YouTube channel, but the eagle is actually an American flag. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's got the stars and the stripes in there. So that was kind of hard to draw, and what I finally figured out to do is you take a flag and orientate it, and then take sections of the flag and paste it into the wings, and then lighten up the opacity of it. So I don't know, Billy. I still kind of like yours with that fish on there. That fish just looks like it's going to get her done. At least everybody's on the same page and likes to help each other out. Yeah. I mean, there's two or three that I can think of that they're all about, oh, this is my proprietary blend and nobody's going to get it. And, it's, there's very little of that, and when you run into those people, they just piss you off to the point where you just want to copy them anyway. So, but like Michael comes out with these pixie dust and then he gives you the recipes to use them in. So, yeah, they're great. I love the way some of these come out. So, let's see if I can find that. I don't know if you guys could even see that pixie dust. Yeah. Is the lighting any better over there? Probably not. I can see really good. And I'm working on a light box. I don't know if how I could show it to you guys. It's a box with the LED lights, right? But the problem with cameras, and all cameras do it, they use a CMOS sensor in there, and that's what the image that goes through the lens is processed by that CMOS sensor. And CMOS, when you're writing binary code, it drops infrared and ultraviolet. The cameras just cannot see that unless you go to an infrared setting, and that still isn't seeing true infrared. It's just kind of pasteurizing it. But without being able to see infrared and ultraviolet, a lot of the colors that we see are dropped. Yeah, Michael would be fun. So most of the stingy guys stick to the forums. Yep, and what is that? Facebook. A lot of those guys are just almost unbearable. No matter what you do, you're wrong. You didn't do it their way. You're wrong. So what I'm doing is I'm developing this light box, and it'll have a big light on top and then two side lights. The difference is I'm using a Arduino controller, which a lot of guys use Arduino controllers in drones to make drones move. Well, using that Arduino controller, I can make certain colors of lights brighter or dimmer. And that will it will actually force your camera into seeing what your eyes see. So, in other words, I'm seeing a lot of this green and gold pixie dust that we put in here. The camera is not showing that at all, really. I don't know if I could even get it down here. I can't. Let me turn this on real quick. We'll go to here. Oops. There. And there. And then turn that one off. Now, down here, you can kind of see, if I could get it to focus, that's going to be the big problem. Now you can see that pixie dust, the green from that pixie dust. And if I'd have done that with a red-based pixie dust, you'd never be able to pick it up on the camera. That's the problem with it. So now we can go back to here, turn those off. There. Now we can see. And so with this light box, using that controller, I can make infrareds brighter, and I can make ultraviolets brighter, and I can drop some of the white. And what that's going to do is force the CMOS sensor into seeing the ultraviolet and the infrareds, which is mostly what gives us this sparkle and shine that we see in our jigs and our lures. Most of that comes from the infrared and ultraviolet light that's bounced around. Then I can flip a switch on the side of this controller, and it'll shut certain lights off and bring other lights on, and you'll see things exactly as a fish sees it, having just the red and green uh, cones, right? So it's going to drop all the other colors that a fish can't see, and it'll make it so that you see exactly what the fish sees. And so I've been working on developing that for a couple of years now, trying to figure it out, and I finally got a controller that works. So I'm building the prototype of it now, and then if people like the prototype, I'll start building it. But it's kind of like I made this deal that you take your Pyrex cups and set it down in this thing, and it tips your Pyrex cup, and it keeps it at any temperature you want from 300 to 360 degrees. So you heat up your plastisol, mix all your colors in, drop it down in there. There's no more reheating of that plastisol, because between shots it'll stay that temperature. So you know, and I made that, and I think the video, I've had like 15 or 16 people view it, and so it's a great little thing that I made, but people just don't want it. So if I make this light box, it might be that some people want it, some people don't. Making the videos and the photos of the baits, and if you got a website and all that, it's going to be a great tool. And it's not costing very much. I mean, the total cost is going to be probably around $75 for this thing. So you're going to be speaking fish. Just, you already can kind of do that. I don't know if you guys do this. I have this terrible habit. First thing I do when I go to a pond or a lake, even if I've been there 100 times, I start looking at what the fish are doing. Where do I see them on my graph? Do I see them in close to shore? And if they're close to shore, as clear as our waters are, I can look down there and see, are they just resting? Are they in the shade? Are they out in the sun trying to warm up? Are they feeding? Are they following bait? So in a way, you can kind of already speak fish. If I go to a stream, I grab rocks, turn them over, and see what's under the rocks, because that's what the fish are eating. Not that they're turning over rocks, but when you walk through the stream, you turn over rocks. All that food gets knocked loose, and the fish downstream eat it. So, people can already kind of speak fish. They just don't know it. She's trying to send me a message. There we go. Missed that video. I'll have to go back and find it. Yeah, I think it's on my, I got a little, I don't know what you call it, a little group of, you put videos in a group, and it's called Crazy Inventions or something. So my owner's trying to get a hold of me. She's on her phone all day long texting, and she won't send me a single text ever. It's crazy. I don't understand it. I quit trying. I just wave my hand, tell her, go fishing. So, but yeah, this has been great chatting with you guys. I love it. I really like these fluid beds. Try next time you're using your fluid bed, try jacking the air way up, see what they want. I think you'll find that as soon as you go beyond that volcano stage and you hit that where it looks like a rolling boil, I think you're going to find that your jigs coat much better. So, but it's been great, Billy. Have fun. Enjoy your your things that you're doing with the church. Sure sounds like a lot of fun. Never been on one, but you know, people that go on them say that they enjoy them. So good luck to you. Have fun at the Bait Makers Meetup, guys. Say hi to everybody for me. I'll be there in mind and spirit, but not in body. You know, so do a bunch of live videos so that I can watch and see how it's going. So you have to check it out. Get free time at work, huh? So you go to work and watch YouTube. I love it. So, but you guys have a great day and thanks for joining me. So, you got to get to work, huh? Yeah. This is work. This is what I do now. I retired 15 years ago so that I could do this. So, you guys have a great one. Nice seeing you guys today, and thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. See how we turn this off.